Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. Apologies for being 24 hours later than normal, but due to a scouting mission to foreign lands, I was not able to be back in time to record. But here we are, ready to talk Rovers, as it was another full week of news and a couple of signings as well. So let's check out the headlines. So Sidnei Tavares signs a 3-year deal with the club for apparently quite a significant fee. Well, relatively significant fee for us. Adam Forshaw's re-signed on a 1-year deal, and that's given a polarised opinions among the fan base. But the boys are back as Wharton takes centre stage as he returns from his ACL injury. Martin Bain looks set to join Derby, which has split the fan base. Ex-Sunderland CEO Martin Bain is now being looked to the role of CEO of Rovers, which, that's prompted many opinions as well from the fan base and Sunderland fans as well. Travis continues to be linked with a move away as Coventry City have now apparently joined Derby and Wrexham in their pursuit. A reported near £5 million financial injection has been sent from India to keep the lights on at the club. And now David Lowe is apparently set to leave Rovers as he apparently didn't turn up for training today. So the rumours have now started with that one. Well, Mark, how are you? And are you ready to break all this down?
Do you know what? They are the gift that just keeps on giving, aren't they? We do wonder sometimes, what will we talk about next week? Will there be anything new? Always new stuff.
Always something, isn't there? But we're going to start with talking about our shirts. We've got like a little bit of a thing across the summer. Mark, you've got what is probably my favourite away Rovers shirt.
Yeah, so I've gone for the first season back in the Premier League after promotion under Souness. So it's even a long sleeve one, Mike. It's a nice navy blue effort. Little bit of blue and white detail here, Kappa, time. I do think Kappa were my favourite ones, although I did fit in it slightly better when I had it back 25 years ago than I do now. Yeah,
but you look magnificent in it, mate. Muscular as ever. I had that with Grabby on the back. I think I put a little tweet out.
Janssen
I managed
for me.
to get Grabby on the back and signed as well. Mine was. It was something where I thought, he's going to be a big shot, and I'm not sure it really worked out for him. But you had Janssen on the back of yours, did you?
Janssen's on the back of this one. He is. There he is.
There he is. What a player. What a player. Well, I went for the 2006 one. I actually don't like this shirt, and it's seen better days. A lot of the stripes have come off. But this is the Lonsdale Bet 24 shirt. It's not the most comfy. It's not the best designed, but it gave us some good memories this season. Don't know what player it reminds me of. We'll stick a tweet out on that one, but I don't know. It's split opinions, these Lonsdale shirts. I wasn't a fan, but because we had such a good time in them, I think fans are a bit more fond of them, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. I think the shirts themselves, when I go into I have them under the bed usually, all packed away nice and neatly. They're the ones that look like something's had a right good chew at them, aren't they? They're stuck together. The two stripes down the side are half a stripe. Yeah, I think might have had Savage on the back of one of them. That's all coming off. It's Haymock for me that reminds me of, though.
Yeah, for me it was Samba. It was definitely a defender. A defender always reminded me with these ones, but we had some players this season. In this season, it was some fond memories. But yeah, we'll have some beauties on hopefully next week. But people put their comments down below what they think of these shirts, and we'll stick some tweets out on it as well. And we'll continue to try and go into our collection and see if we can squeeze ourselves into them. But going on to the news. So the lads are now back in training. We've got a new signing, Sidnei Tavares. I think I'm saying his name right. If not, I apologise profusely. Apparently, a good couple of million's been spent on him. What's your thoughts on this one?
I know he's been in English football, hasn't he? Previously, he's come through the ranks at Leicester. You listen to his interview. English is not going to be a problem. He speaks better English than me, which is not difficult. But he's a tall, rangy midfielder. I don't think the stats are something we're going to get too excited about, but he's only young, is he 23? So I think this is something that they've looked at the profile of the player. There are some concerning stats out there. I think he was ranked, was he 34 out of 35 defensive midfielders in the league he was in. But obviously the scouting stats that they use in terms of distance covered, accurate passes, all the kind of metrics that they think are really important for what they want from a central midfielder, that he's hitting. And at the very least, they're confident that he will continue to hit them. We did say we thought we would go for a profile of a box-to-box midfielder. He seems to fit that. Stature-wise, he seems to be more of an Nzonzi than a Travis. But, if he's half the player of Stephen Nzonzi, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we need to, as they say, cut your cloth accordingly. We're not shopping with the big boys. Like you said, we are in that middle aisle of Aldi trying to do our best. And I'll be honest, I'm relatively excited about it. We said that the central midfield roles were light, whilst obviously Travis is still being linked to leaving. They have gone and got, Sidnei in there. We've also re-signed Forshaw for another year, which I'll get to. We went and got the new left winger as well. So they are starting to plug some holes, which is nice to see. It's not just going blind and just grabbing whoever you can. The deals are being done relatively early. But with this one, I keep harping back to the Dak signing. When we signed Dak, I was not excited. If anything, I was disappointed because I was thinking, why the hell are we going for these kind of players? And we pulled one out of the bag with him, and you just don't know. I will judge after I've seen him. I will judge at the end of the window how things are in regards to players not signing, players that are signing, and so on. I've looked at the stats. I've looked at, the things that you see on YouTube, like we keep saying, and I'm seeing some decent things. It's whether it clicks, and if he's an Ismail player and he comes in and he does the job, then fantastic. We don't spend much money on players. And for us to spend this apparent amount, it must be that they see something in him. They see something in the stats. They see something in what he's going to give to us. So I've got to trust that. And, it's exciting. It's just another player that I've got to figure out how to say his name.
Yeah, I think people are automatically, we know there's a lot of glass half empty Rovers fans. I'm very much on the side of, I'll judge him what I see in a Rovers shirt. I think it's good in some senses that he comes with nobody's that aware of him, because he doesn't come with baggage of the instant like Forshaw did, for example. I also see a lot of people jump into the fact, Travis must be off. We don't do business like that. We do not bring people in ahead of if somebody leaves. It might be that Travis leaves, but we're not able to be proactive in that sense. This is a player they've clearly looked at and they've decided they wanted. I'd heard that they were after a box-to-box style midfielder. Early on in the summer, we talked about whether they would shift to a 3 in midfield. Well, that wasn't previously an option. It probably is now. So, yeah. It's not automatic.
And
that means Travis is off.
Yeah, and he's like you say, he's something new. He's something we haven't got. He's got that size. He seems to have a little bit of pace about him with those long strides. So it is something different. For sure, as a sign-in, I put on X that it was like a little bit of a stocking filler signing. You've got to have some depth. But we actually said apparently he was really good around the dressing room, and you do need those kind of players. And let's assume Bart and Vyman have made their exits and gone to Derby. You've lost 2 people there. Bringing Forshaw back in is going to be someone that can give that experience and arm around the shoulder to the younger players and the players coming in.
Yeah, I think we discussed this at the end of last season. I would have kept Forshaw. I think he was quite low risk. I know previously people have talked about his injury record, but we've not been overplaying him. We're not expecting him to play week in, week out. You imagine he's on relatively low wages. He's from not too far away. He's from Liverpool area. He's had experience of promotion. He knows the place now. I think the only concerning thing for me was that was quite a straightforward re-sign, and we hadn't even offered him a deal. I think when they announced the retained list, it said not offered a deal. So something's changed. I'm hoping that is a lack of experience that they're worried about, and that's why they're bringing him in, and not that actually some sexy midfielder was coming through the door and they're now not bringing him in. But I'm quite comfortable with the signing of Forshaw. I think it's a position that he's going to be, fourth, fifth choice in midfield. He pretty much ticks a lot of boxes in that sense, and I don't think he's somebody who's going to be kicking off if he's not playing every week either, and that's important in a dressing room. It really is.
Yeah, we definitely need that depth, and we definitely need it in that centre mid. I mean, talking about the players being back at training, there was a big thing about Scott Wharton, obviously, because we haven't seen him all season. It was an awful injury he had. And as much as I didn't necessarily rate him as a player highly, he was someone kind of in that mould, similar to Forshaw, that I still wanted around the club. I think it's really important you have players like Wharton around the club. You know, they're supporters. They've been there since they were young. Their families are all fans and so on. You know, so you do want that kind of player there. So it's great to see him back on the pitch. And there was people, you know, in the comments really supporting him. And it's great to see. Whether he's going to play a big part, I don't know. I think the fact that Danny Bart looks like he's not signed probably helps Wharton a hell of a lot more. How are you feeling about the Scott Wharton thing after all the interviews? Do you feel like it's his chance now to really step up and, you know, make a claim for being in this squad?
I think he just needs to focus on his fitness, doesn't he? It's his first pre-season for 2 years. He's had some horrific injuries in his career, even before the latest one. It's the first time he's joined in, he said, with all the lads in training. I just need him to get through pre-season. I don't think there should be any pressure on Scott Wharton. I think we see him as almost a bonus member of the squad. And yeah, I'll be glad to see him play some football, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't in pre-season either. I think although he's taking part in training and a full part by the looks of it, I would imagine he's still a pretty good way behind most of the other players.
Definitely. And let's talk about players that weren't there. So I think it's pretty obvious that Dolan wasn't there. You've seen Campbell wearing the number 10 number on his shirt, training shirt. So, you know, the magnifying glasses have been out for all the Sherlock Holmes out there, seeing AK-47 is now going to be AK-7 by the looks of things.
Nice.
So, yeah, exactly. So, no Dolan. He's currently training in Manchester. He's obviously keeping his options open. Whether there's a deal on the table and it's not being announced yet, I don't know. I think we're all pretty certain that Dolan's not back now, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've heard people talking about the fact that I think contracts generally run till the 30th of June, but you don't have them back in pre-season, do you? It's no good for you if they're not going to come back, and it's no good for the player. I know there's fitness elements, but for the sake of a week, it's not right. Your preparation needs to be fully focused on who wants to be in the building, who is in the building, and who's definitely with us. You don't need that uncertainty. So Dolan's at the very least exploring his options, isn't he?
I'll be shocked if he comes back now. I think they've all settled on that. The other one's Danny Barton and Andy Vyman. It looks like they've already gone and signed new deals elsewhere. It seems to be Derby for both of them, by the reports.
Seems to be, doesn't it? I think that they'll probably be officially announced. If their contracts run out on the 30th, they'll probably be officially announced then. I think Dolan might be a while longer. I think he's probably just exploring his options, but I expect Barton Vyman to be unveiled on probably next Tuesday, the day after we record a pod. So what I would say is had Rovers brought so Craig Forsyth, who's been at Derby for years, has been given a 2-year deal at 34, I think. That would tend to lend itself to the narrative that both Vyman and Bart will get 2-year deals there, and we wouldn't offer that. That is one route to go down as a club and bring in lots of experienced players. And I know that worked for us to some extent last year, and I think experience is massively important, and it's something we can't neglect. But I would be worried equally if Rovers are offering 2-year deals to people at 34. I don't think the Championship is a place that you can play too many of those players week in, week out. I think you've got to get the balance right. So I can see both sides of the argument with this one. I would have liked to have seen Barton Vyman resign, but if we don't know, we will probably never know. But if the only way that we did that was to pay what we paid them last year for 2 more years, I can see the logic in not doing as well. I just think we need to be careful that we keep that balance of experience, and that's probably what Forshaw's doing.
And this is exactly what I tweeted out, and we had a conversation about. We're going to judge when the season starts and when the window closes of what we've got. I've seen loads of people arguing about the Danny Bart situation, saying, some people saying, "Oh, just offer him a 2-year deal. It's obvious that he's going to be really important to us." Well, like you said, you're getting into the risky part of a player's career now. We didn't expect Bart to do what he did last year, and we were spoilt with that. That isn't normal for a player like that to play as much as he did. Vyman already proved that he could get an injury, and he obviously went and sorted it out, I would assume, with the surgery that he had. But already you're starting to see cracks with Vyman there, and as much as I would have loved him to come back, and he was a cult hero for scoring the goal that he did, I don't want the club to be held to ransom. And like you say, in a year's time, we're talking about 2 injury-riddled players with 1 year left on the deals. But I completely appreciate where they are, that they've got to protect themselves and get as much money as they can before they retire. So as much as I'm probably more disappointed with the Bart one rather than the Vyman. I feel like even though we probably needed Vyman, I just felt like he wasn't necessarily going to give us as much next year as what he could have done. But Bart, I would have liked to have seen him back for a year. But if Scott Wharton comes back and he offers something around Bart's level, we've got that position covered, and it looks like we are still looking at players in that position anyway. So, like I said, I'm not going to cry over it. I'm just going to say, thanks for the year. You both did fantastic for us. You gave us some great memories, but we're quite happy to move on. The Travis situation is still slightly concerning. Whilst I do think he's on the pitch, he is replaceable. I think there's a lot off the pitch, which, we've said that he does offer. Is this still agent talk, or do you think this is starting to get more solid now with Coventry being linked?
You'd like to think that we're talking to him and we're trying to tie him down, but he's got a year left on his contract. So if he's not going to do, it's going to be as much Rovers trying to see what interest is out there. I think what I would say is Barton Vyman, 2 years' time, might not be playing much football. Travis is in his prime. Barton Vyman picked injuries up last season, both of them when they were overplayed. Travis didn't necessarily. And I also think if you look at last season's style of football under Eustace, Barton Vyman were fine for that. They probably don't fit Ismail's style of football if we're going to play higher up the pitch and we're going to play more on the front foot and high energy. Travis does. So I think on all those counts, he's really important as well as the stuff off the pitch. So I'd want to see a really good fee for him. But I also think we've got ourselves into a position again where we're a year away from expiry of his contract. Same with Britain, same with Tronstad. And I think there needs to be an ultimatum brewing very shortly.
Yeah, and I'd probably prefer... I mean, obviously I want Britain signed. That goes without saying. Tronstad or Travis, if you had the choice to sign one, who would it be? If you had to sign one like the other day. See, I think I'd keep Tronstad. So you're Travis. Yeah. So put down in the comments, have a little comment there down below. Would you prefer Tronstad or Travis? I mean, at the end of the day, Sidney's coming into play. So who's going to be next to him? Unless we do go for that 3 in the middle. It's going to be interesting to see who's next to him. But... sometimes it's good to have that competitive depth and to keep players around. The club aren't stupid. They're going to be shopping every single player around that we've got and seeing what we can get.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that we've talked about Tavares is different elements to his game and his different qualities. One thing he isn't bringing, by the looks of it, is goals and assists. So that's still something we're really, really lacking in that midfield. And if they actually feel that he could be Travis's replacement, for argument's sake, and they can, almost be cost neutral, but he's 23, and they need to be clever with their funds, and they want to bring somebody in who's going to add goals, I can see the logic in it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can see the logic in it. Yeah. You just need...
Yeah, so...
I just think you need to be very, very careful, because we are getting into the realms now where potentially, if we follow this same route with 4 or 5 more, 3/4 of your starting 11 are relative unknowns who don't know the Championship. And I know Tavares has played in English football, but he's not played week in, week out in the Championship. So I'm going to class him in that as well. I just think we need to be careful that we get the balance right of English football knowledge as well.
Well, exactly. I mean, last season was a good season. To finish where we finished, it was a good season. You don't want to lose the complete spine of the team. You don't want to lose too many players. Because whilst there was a little bit of negativity towards the end, because we did fall away and the fans were obviously upset with things that were going on, generally we finished the season strong and we had players there that were starting to perform. And like you said, we've lost some of the performers then and we could potentially lose more. You saw who came back to training. Who else did you see that was back that's turned up that you wasn't necessarily expecting?
Yes, there's quite a few young players that he's talked about have joined in, which were noticeable. But I think the one who's been offered a deal, but I've not seen any confirmation that he's re-signed, was Beaty. So we've talked about Beaty a few times. We've said he should be relatively straightforward, you would imagine, unless the actual sticking point for Beaty is he wants to play football, but he's only relatively young still. He's 2021. So, yeah, he had a squad number on his training kit, the same squad number he had last year. He's back in training, and I know people can say, well, he's still under contract, but so's Dolan, so's Vyman, so's Bart. So that doesn't apply to them. So you would imagine Rovers are his first choice. Begs the question why he's not signed a contract yet, though. Unless he hasn't, it's just not been announced.
Or he's just being professional. We just don't know. He could just be like, do you know what? I'm going to be professional. I'm going to come back. I'm going to show that I'm worth something. I would have thought that he's got something on the table he's not necessarily happy about, or like you say, there's promises that aren't there, and he might just be exploring. So he's coming back. He's keeping he's keeping professional against his potential current employers going forward. And if he decides to move on, he moves on. If not, he's shown that he's a professional and he's going to carry on, and that looks good on him. So it could be something like that. But we're only seeing photos. Everyone's laughing, smiling, looks happy to all be together. The management all seem happy, and the coaches all seem happy, except for one, and that's David Lowe. He wasn't there. Now the rumours are circling that he's now going to be leaving the club. It's new to us. It literally only started today. We've heard nothing official, though, have we?
No, and I think you've got to remember David Lowe wasn't on the training ground much under Eustace at all. His job was not that. Damien Johnson's job under Eustace was technical coach, so it was looking at video analysis, working one-on-one with players around developing their individual game, things they could improve on, things they'd done well. David Lowe was looking at opposition. So it could be very innocent. It could be that David Lowe is off scouting players because they need the others on the training ground. But rumours generally start from somewhere, don't they? And I think just because he's not been seen in a video wouldn't be the main reason for a rumour. So, yeah, maybe he's decided it's time to move on.
Yeah, and these things happen when coaches come in, and when you're coming in, when Ismail came in, it's very difficult then to start chopping and changing your coaching staff at that point. There needed to be some stability, and
100%.
Now, exactly, and now he's got quite a long contract, this manager, and he'll want his team around him. So I think we're going to start seeing some coaches coming in that are probably his coaches, which means some coaches are going to leave. David Lowe, he's been with the club for a long time, but he's not a young guy. We're now going to start playing with relatively young players that are fast-paced. It could just be part of this rebuild that we keep hearing about, and a new project, we'll use that term now, and just trying something different. And it could be that this is what's needed to inject that pace and aggressiveness that we need in this team. And if we're going to have young and energetic players, we need young and energetic coaches to go with them.
Yeah, I think let's say he is leaving. He wasn't on the training ground that he used to, so Eustace saw something similar in his qualities elsewhere. To then keep him in until the end of last season was absolutely the right decision. And then if you review it in the summer, and if actually your footballing philosophies or whatever are not aligned, perfect sense. I think, it's... I just worry again about the fact that a lot of elder statesmen who know the club well are leaving the club. And I think it's all well and good having new projects. It's all well and good having new ideas. You can't lose your club identity. And I think people like Scott Wharton become even more important as this carries on. Yeah,
it's definitely a worry. When you're getting this many people leaving, I mean, what is it now? So we've had the player liaison, PA. What was her role again? Sorry.
So she manages PA and player liaison, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. So she's left. David Lowe's left. There's rumours that Travis is going as well. So there's some pretty strong characters there that are potentially leaving. But like you say, there's a difference between a refresh and a complete overhaul. At the moment, it has a refresh feel to it. If it carries on, it does feel like overhaul.
Yeah, I worry that you need experience. I think the cynic in me is suggesting that people, maybe not in David Law's case, but people who are very strong-willed and have their own opinion are leaving for one reason or another. And that's my concern, really. I think those two things.
Exactly, and one person that's now being linked to coming in is a new CEO, and the name Martin Bain is now coming into it. So he's obviously known for Sunderland Till I Die. People seeing behind the scenes in that documentary of when they got relegated from the Championship, and he got pretty bad press for that. There's Rangers fans saying how well he did there, but then there's obviously Sunderland fans now saying how bad he did with them. We got to see behind the scenes. It seemed like he was kind of overseeing the sale of the club a little bit, and I've seen some comments saying it's like having an administrator in without having an administrator in. I just don't know when it comes to these kind of things. It's rumours. We have no idea whether this is true, but again, you just don't know till it happens. I'm not going to stress myself and get all over X having a cry about it until it actually happens and seeing what they do. He did so well at Rangers, but just because we've all seen in the documentary where they were a club which was so badly run to start with and was already on a downward spiral, we can't necessarily blame him for that. Are you hearing anything more around your way about Martin Bain coming in?
No, only what's online. I think what I would clarify is he's not the joker who was trying to get the music turned up and talking about being a DJ. No. He isn't that man. He is he's a football administrator, isn't he, really? And if you look at the role that was put out there for an unnamed Northwest club for the CEO role, he is, that person will be doing a watered down role. I think what that person won't be doing is the talk of asset stripping and things. Asset stripping does take place in corporate worlds and in other worlds. But that usually benefits the person doing the asset stripping. The person who's going to be a CEO at Blackburn Rovers is not really going to benefit from that, other than if they bring in more than they sell. I mean, right now, we're bringing in very little funds in terms of transfers, and we're spending. So, all may continue.
And the thing is that a lot of fans were going off this documentary. If you've watched both seasons, the second season absolutely slates into him, but that's a new regime. So they are going to completely moan about the previous regime. That's kind of how it works. It's all the propaganda that happens when new people come in. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I say, it's a watered down role. I just want things kind of sorted quickly now. I want us to. I don't want us to rush it. I want us to get the right people. But it sounds like he's actually quite experienced. We know he's been successful in other places. So if we can get a CEO that is successful, brilliant. But I'd love to hear from some Sunderland fans about it if it does happen, to see what their opinions are, because they'll know way more than we do, because all we do know is probably from the same documentary that everyone else has watched, and maybe some Rangers fans if they can let us know as well. But the advert's still out there, and hopefully we can get a CEO in. But we know that there's a financial injection also come. It's just under 5 million. It does keep the lights on for quite a bit longer. It's a nice little comfort blanket, this one.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I think I believe, just by looking at the accounts, I am not an accountant, but a quick look at the accounts, it looks like that's the first lot of money that Venky's have sent over since 2023. I think was the rumours, I don't know if it was confirmed, but that actually there's been some alterations to the guarantee that they have to do in the bond, that actually they now only have to do half. So for every pound they're sending over, they only have to put 50p equivalent into a bond, which will obviously hopefully loosen the purse strings if that was an issue. But I've not had a fans forum yet. We've got one coming up in July, so fingers crossed we will get some answers.
Yeah, and I did read that we can't, obviously none of this money can be used for incomings. It's got to be for the running of the club and the current people there, isn't it?
That generally is, I think, what the agreement was. It was day-to-day running. I think people have panicked a couple of times when they've seen things like winding up orders, and they've seen people talking about how essential it is for the running of the club, otherwise it couldn't operate. That is legal people's job to impress on courts that actually these things are really important. And you would lay out that if you didn't pay your bills and you didn't pay the tax man, he would send you a winding up order. They have a duty to inform the courts of that. There was never a winding up order sent. They've never been late paying bills, as far as I know, and as I'm sure that's what they've clarified, that they haven't. So, yeah, it'll be to pay the bills, but it also means we're not having to sell to pay the bills, which it would appear on the face of it. That's what we've been doing previously.
And there's loads of people all over social media, on Facebook, X, all the online forums I'm seeing, saying about the fact, well, we've sent this money, why aren't they releasing the budgets that was going to be spent? That doesn't happen in football. They don't come out and flat out say this is how much money we've got to spend, because you don't want to show your cards in the transfer market for a start.
Exactly.
And it's just something that doesn't happen. What I do like to think is that it does ease the pressures on transfer that have gone out, and some of that money that has come into us that may be used for the playing staff and actually trying to bring people in. We've already seen that they're willing to spend some money on Sidnei, which is great. I'm not seeing any more rumours necessarily. I'm seeing the odd ones. There's that other Belgium guy, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. But apparently he's quite highly rated in midfield. Do you want to try and pronounce his name? Do you know?
No, I'm not going to attempt that one, Mike. I will have a look while you're just doing that. I'll have a quick look at the one I saw linked. Mohamed Gouindo.
Okay. So what do we know about him?
Well, Wait for this one, Mike. This is a Champman legend, this guy. So he's 21 in the Challenger Pro League in Belgium. Marley under 23 international. But wait for this one. Okay. So he went on loan to the Belgium 4th Division. And last season he played in the Challenger Pro League and got 8 goals, 3 assists in 26 games as a, Harry Leonard sort of age. But let me try and bring his stats up while I'm on here. He'd gone on loan to the Belgium 4th League previously, and it won't load while I'm talking about this. And so he played for Belgium under 16s. Marley, he's played for. Is this who you were referring to, Mike, by the way?
Which one? I'm trying to find his. I'm trying to find. There's a. So you got Guindo.
Right, here he is. So he went on loan to the Belgian 4th League last season. 27 goals in 25 games. Get him signed. Done. Must be a legend. I'm sold.
Done.
Yeah.
Done. The one I was talking about was Brian de Kersmaker.
Kersmaker, great name. Sold.
Kersmaker, I think that's his name. So there's quite a few teams looking at this guy. He's meant to be pretty solid, but we're being linked to loads of loans as well. It's really hard to see what is his agent talk and obviously what is actually solid. But this, the one I'm seeing is this Brian de Kersmaker. I'm going to call him that. I could be completely butchering his name. But again, he's in that centre midfield role. I have seen some to do with this window. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, they want to get the deals done early. I think this financial injection just paves the way for us to spend maybe a little bit of money. And we're going to start seeing some free transfers as well, because when that door closes, without some of the players leaving us, there's going to be other players in other clubs that are going to be available, and they're going to be looking round, and some of them might be looking over the fence at us and thinking, do you know what? I like the project that's going on there, and I want to jump on that ship. And you don't know who we've got lined up from a free transfer point of view, because like we've said before, we need to keep our cards close to our chest. We need to do things on the quiet, because it's quite easy for us to be gazumped in the transfer market. We've had it happen plenty of times. So I quite like the way I'm not hearing a hell of a lot, because I trust that stuff's happening in the background. And whilst we all sit here and we panic and we go, oh my God, we're not being linked, we're not seeing players through the door. I think sometimes you've got to be patient. And the one thing you said last week is they need to see who's come back into training, where we're at, and who we've got being re-signed. And I think now the next week is going to be really telling with a lot of clubs, especially in the Championship.
Yeah, I think we'd said last week, didn't we? We expected some movement this week, and then over the 2-week period, as we include probably middle of next week after you've got the expiry of some people's contracts, we expect to see more, and I think we're on track with that. I didn't think we'd have 2 more through the door, albeit one being Forshaw. I didn't. So I think there'll be quite a bit of movement next week. I think we'll have clarity on the futures of Vyman and Bart, probably not Dolan. But then I think we will be pressing go on a couple of the others if we can as well. So it wouldn't surprise me to see 2 confirmed exits and two additions, and then maybe we'll clarify Jake Batty's future as well.
And hopefully the likes of Travis Britton and Tronstad, and you're starting to see some contracts being signed. I think my worry with the contracts is that you can get these done near enough at any point. And I don't know, they're back in the building now, so is it a case of they just want to see where they're at? Is it the case the players want to see where we're at as a club? Who's coming through the door before we sign? Yep. I think we'd all love to see some contracts signed just for some stability, and we'd like to see a couple of players coming in. And I think, like you called, that centre back situation needs to be addressed now. They've gone and got themselves a couple of centre midfielders. Yep. Okay, Forshaw isn't exactly at the level that we all necessarily wanted, but it's still a player through the door. Sidney's someone that's going to be hopefully an upgrade in the position. We'll see. We've gone and got ourselves a nice left winger. He does seem to be more of a left winger than a left back. So it's going to be interesting now to see where we are pushing. But it's got to be that centre-back role, hasn't it?
I think so. I think I would expect to see... I think they'll have a good look at Harry Leonard and see where he's at in terms of the forward role. I think Beaty, they will consider, could he be a cover option somewhere? How's O'Riordan looking? How are Buckley and Rankin Costello looking when they've come back? But I think the gaps still are out wide. Obvious ones are out wide. And I still think we will see... I'd be very surprised if we don't see an athletic left-footed centre-half come through the door.
Yeah, I'd like that to be a permanent signing as well. I'd like us from a defensive point of view to be more permanent signing because I want some stability in that position for a bit. I don't want it to be like a Hill situation where they come in, do really well, and then they're off at Christmas when they get recalled. I want some stability at the back. Yeah,
I think the only counter argument to that is we'll know a bit more about Wharton by Christmas. We have got Carter and we have got Hyam who if they want long careers and successful careers in the Championship, pushing Premier League, at their ages now, should be the first choice centre halves. So, you know, would a loan tide us over and take the pressure off everybody a little bit? Possibly. I could see that being an option, if I'm being honest. Certainly, if they can't get the one they want, I wouldn't be against that, actually.
Well, we've had some great loan signings, you know, Tosin, Van Heck and so on. I don't know, maybe it's the goalkeeper in me just wanting a nice solid centre-back pairing in front of me for, you know, that you can have that relationship built over a good 2-3 season period where you've got your right back in Britain, you've got your left back in Pickering, Ribeiro, whoever it is, you've got your two centre-backs, whoever they are, and then you've got your goalkeeper. I'd like that to be solid. Like you've said, potentially we're going to go to 3 centre-backs and push the full-backs into wing-backs. I just want to see that solid, and loan signings for me, they just give that little bit of instability. And I want a unit there that we can look at and be proud of and say, right, we know that for the next 2-3 years, these guys are going to be our solid spine rock at the back. And if we go and get a couple of young loans on the wings, okay, you know, we know Koji Jubri didn't necessarily work out, but we've had some decent ones there that have done some decent jobs. But for me, I would like to see a little bit more stability at the back. But it's what's out there. And we seem to be shopping in the Belgian leagues and foreign at the moment. So whoever we go and get is going to be someone that we haven't necessarily heard of. But I'm just asking for another Chris Samba. Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I'd take a Kisnishvili, I'll be honest. I think one thing I would just keep half an eye on is if there's any players, I mean, we might not even be linked with them because we've done very well at keeping it under the radar. But I think I'm right in saying that the adjustment to the rankings of teams gets changed on the 1st of July when the new season refreshes, if you like. So any players that might be on the cusp of passing for an automatic work permit or not, anyone that's on that border, they will need to get done this week. So I think that might have been the case with Dinny. I think that was one of the reasons that they needed him sorting. So yeah, Andy Watson, who we've talked to before, he was on Rovers Chat quite a bit. Does a lot of stuff about that. He actually did some consultancy work with Rovers. I've talked to him now and again. To be fair to him, he's a good lad. But he'd raised that one in an article I saw. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's any of those players, there is a rush. They need to get them sorted because otherwise you might have to allocate one of your 4 ESC places, which you don't really want to be doing.
Tell you what, all these new permits and rules that we're having to keep up with, it's hard, isn't it?
Oh, Brexit and Thatcher's Britain. That's what it is.
But yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to see some players coming through the door. There does seem to be some action. We are going to utilise the loan market. There's going to be someone. We're going to get someone from Brighton We always do. It just depends who. I'm not seeing many links to other players leaving, which is nice. I would have thought Pears is probably going to be being shopped around a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see that one. I mean, I don't know where we're going to be going with this squad. We said the last couple of weeks, all we know we're going to see is some changes. This squad is going to look different, drastically different come the end of this window to what we went into it with. And it's going to be interesting to see how we build it. Are you seeing anyone in the youth team that is going to be making that step up other than your Igor Tijons? Do you think that he's going to be getting up there?
I think they're going to get a good go at it in pre-season. I think Ismail did an interview and said he had a lot of young players in and around the training. The ones I've seen are Tajon's there, Montgomery I saw, Beaty, Conor O'Riordan, I suppose to an extent you could count. I think Jack Barrett was there and Tom Aitchinson was there. But then there was Harrison Wood, who had an extended deal. He was knocking around training. I'll probably missed a couple of others, but they're going to get a go, aren't they? They're going to be going to Mercy's training camp. They're going to be in and around it. And I think they've got a chance to impress. I think they have got a chance until people come through the door at the very least. That actually, if Jake Batty comes and impresses with his energy, impresses with his quality, why would you not have him around that first team squad? Same with Conor O'Riordan. I think these are people that Ismail's not going to have had a look at. He's not going to know that much about. Yes, he will take the advice of people who are already at the club, but he'll be his own man. He's going to have a look at them and use his own eyes. And if they look like they are, if Jake Batty looks like actually he's as ready as Deneve, then he's going to be given a chance, isn't he? So I like it. I think it's a massive pre-season for Harry Leonard. I think it is for JRC and Buckley, but I think he's possibly made his mind up about them. I think Harry Leonard has obviously been injured. He's not really been around it. Massive for him. And we are big fans of him. We've talked about his movement and how, particularly under Thomason, he was really important in that high press. And I don't know if Ismail will have seen that. And I think I stick by what I said a couple of weeks ago when he's better chance of playing now than he did under Eustace. He didn't fit Eustace's style football. Eustace didn't awfully want to give young players a chance. He wanted tried and tested. Leonard would have been definitely out on loan. He still may be, but I think he'll get a good run at pre-season. I think they'll judge him 2 or 3 games into the season.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon for everyone to get together, the ones on the fringes, the ones that are, it may be a little bit out of, more fringe players, they are going to get their opportunity. They are going to be here having a look. And the club would be silly not to do that. That does need to be done because you don't know what you've got. You don't know who comes back, and players mature differently physically and mentally. So you might have a player come back and suddenly they're big. I mean, you hear the stories about Michael Jordan, don't you, where he came back and he'd grown 6 inches and suddenly became the player that he did. I'm not comparing some of our athletes to someone like that, but you just don't know. Puberty finishes differently for different players. So if you've got a 19-year-old, he could have a growth spurt very quick, and then suddenly he's come back an absolute unit, and physically they can start to dominate. So I think it's great that we are going to start looking at these players, and we want them to succeed. It makes things easier in regards to signing players and building your squad, because that's what it's about. It's about building a squad, preparing yourself for the season ahead. I'd like to see us get some of the younger players through. We said before we didn't see many this year. I mean, when we talked about who was our young player of the year, it was a really difficult conversation, and we've never had that before. We've always been able to look at a player, look at a squad and go, do you know what, that young lad did really well. He came in, played a few games, did really well, and we didn't have that this year. So I do want that to happen, and I have a lot of faith in Harry Leonard. It's all going to come down to his injury. How's he recovered? How's he developed with that? I do think he will probably go out on loan, but I still want him to have a future with this club.
Oh, 100%. I think anytime you've got a young English striker who has a knack for getting a chance every time he's on the pitch, whether that's 2 minutes or 20 or the full game, he has chances. He's got a good knack of being able to put the ball in the back of the net as well. I know we've seen that mainly with the 21s, but we have seen it with the first team. I think you've got to, if you're going to be an academy-based squad and you're going to be a club that needs academy players to succeed, you'd be disappointed if you didn't make this one work. Yeah.
No, exactly. Well, it's going to be an interesting month. Couple of weeks to a month to see what happens. We're going to have a long pre-season, and I think Ishmael's going to have a really good look at them. And in that pre-season, we're going to hopefully see some nice kits released and be able to see some nice away kits, and the eagerly awaited anniversary one's going to be coming a bit later on. We are running a competition at the moment. For those on YouTube, this is the competition.
Nice.
Okay, so there we go. So yeah, you can win a Rovers shirt, the new home shirt. All you've got to do is you've got to share the post, like the post when they're out on social media, tag 3 people and get them to do the same. And obviously make sure you do subscribe below. Mark, you've been doing the stats on the subscribing. Not many of our listeners are subscribed, are they?
No, I think we are about 50-50 of, so we're averaging now about 1,500 views for each YouTube video, and there's only about 680, I think it is at the minute, of them that are actually subscribed. So come on, pull your fingers out your ears. If you want to enter 2, 3, 4 times, that's absolutely fine. Just grab your auntie, uncles, mums, cats, dogs YouTube account, get yourself subscribed, go on their Instagram and follow us on X, whichever you want. It doesn't really matter of them, but the YouTube's the big one. Get yourself subscribed and you'll get in the pot, won't you?
Definitely. And we love all the comments down below as well. People are chatting. They're making comments about what's happened across the week. Come into the comments below, talk. Everyone can comment on each other's. It's a safe place to have a conversation. We don't argue with anyone. But yeah, it's important that you guys subscribe. It's absolutely free. It's easy to do. We're not spamming you with loads of other content and random content. We only do the podcast in the off season. When we come to the season, obviously we try and do a little bit more. But yeah, we will be putting some more X posts, Instagram posts, Facebook posts out there for you to tag people. Try and tag the people you know. We have had one person tagging in Trump and Elon Musk. I'm not sure they're going to like and subscribe because remember, you need them to do it as well.
Wasn't it Gandhi?
I mean, you never know. I think Trump's Gandhi. I think Trump's a little bit busy at the moment.
Wow.
So he might not have time to listen to us. But yeah, just make sure you do that. Keep checking. We are going to be putting more posts out to enter the competition because we do want to make sure that you listeners that have all been helping us grow can win something out of it. But we are going to be hopefully getting an away shirt soon. I'm not seeing any leaks this time, and it's getting a bit irritating. I want to get the juices flowing. What kind of colour scheme are you hoping to see here?
Yeah, we've not had any leaks, have we? But we didn't relive the home shirt until the day before, was it? I would like. I think Macron have gone down modernising old classics, haven't they? I do like a navy one, I've got to be honest, but we have had that recently with Macron, so that might be tricky. Do you know what I would really like, Mike? In an ideal world, if I was able to pick, which if I won the Euro Millions and some, and I owned Rovers, I would be picking the kits. That would be one of my only criteria.
100%. Yeah.
What I would do is, do you remember the 93 to about 95 yellow kit with the black down the side? I think we wore it once in the cup at Tottenham.
Yeah.
I'd be redoing that. But what I would do is make sure the stitching that went down here and at the back, that made sure everyone's name and number just tore in about 40 pieces, was not there. Just have it embedded. But yeah, that's the one I'd be having. What about you?
So I did like that one. I'm trying to get into the mind of the Macron design team, because they've given us a nice yellow one, and I would have said yellow this year would have been an interesting one, but they've done that. They've obviously done black and red.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think what historic away shirts have we had, and I can't really think of any that hasn't already been done. So I would have liked to see another yellow one, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. So I think I think they're going to stick with the red. And I think there's going to be another third shirt, and the third shirt might be a navy blue, and then they'll have the anniversary shirt, which I think will have the Maltese cross on it.
Yeah, 100%. There will be 4 kits this year. I think that's an open secret. What will be interesting with the anniversary kit is, do they go for the first ever shirt, which was all white, or do they go down the route of the first halved shirt, which was a really dark navy blue, wasn't it, with the Maltese cross? And hopefully, I think they need the beanie hats that seem to go with them as well. That would be, if you are doing it, let's do it properly. One thing I do need to just mention, Mike, I've been asked to mention it, and we absolutely should do, was on Facebook, because we are absolutely massive, we are a big following on Facebook. I mean, I don't really use Facebook, I'm going to be honest, but for the Blackburn End purposes, we are massive on there. But we had a lovely direct message, and I'm just going to read it out. And it was from John Lee, who is... he's in charge of the Blackburn Rovers Australasia supporters group. So I will try and share this on X, actually. So he said, "Good day. Hope you're getting some good download figures from Down Under. Can I ask you to give our Facebook group a mention in one of your episodes to raise awareness?" So they've only got about 400 members, which does sound pretty impressive, to be fair, but there are more people in Australia that support Blackburn Rovers than 400. He said we've got over 400 members. He still bumps into Rovers fans around Brisbane. I think this came about because you were surprised you bumped into Rovers fans in Birmingham. So he bumps into Rovers fans in Brisbane, and he said they know nothing about the group, and I'm sure that's the same for the rest of Australia. So if by some miracle you are a Rovers fan in Australia, and by an even bigger miracle you're listening to us clowns every week, I will link the Facebook group, but it's just but I'll tell you what, I'll try and speak. Blackburn Rovers Australasia supporters group. And yeah, we are members of it, so I will try and share it. I'll try my best to share it on our X account. But yeah, go and give them some support, because do you know what? Fair play to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had a few conversations with John at Brisbane Rover on X. Yeah, we have some good conversations with John. So yeah, make sure you do go across onto that. I think what we've done here is we brought a lot of like-minded Rovers fans together with this pod. I think most of the people that we comment down below on YouTube and on Facebook and on X, we're seeing the same names all the time, and we're all quite like-minded. We're all trying to see some positivity. We're all trying to, pick through what's going on, and we're all trying to see, the light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, it's quite a good community we've got here. So if everyone could come together on those, that would be great. We're going to carry on doing the podcast across the summer. We're going to try and pick through everything that we've got here. And they might only be an hour long, not the usual hour and a half, because we haven't got a game to actually talk about. And we're not ones that necessarily like to speculate too much, especially about the big news. Because if we start speculating too much, it becomes news and it becomes fact, and then it becomes rumour, and then suddenly we're being mentioned as saying things that aren't necessarily true, and that's not what we're about. We like to talk about, the facts, and we will talk about rumours and we'll respond to rumours, but we don't want to create them. So, so this is the place that you want to come to if you just want to, shoot the shit about Rovers, basically. But make sure everyone comment down below on anything you've spoken about. Make sure you do have a look at that competition. Try and get as many people coming to us as possible. We are trying to grow, because the more we grow, the more we can do for you guys and try and get some players on. But before we go, Mark, is there anything else you wanted to chat about this week?
Well, I know we've said we're not going to do rumours, but the only rumour I have heard recently, Mike, is that there's going to be a Blackburn End away day next season. So we'll have to keep a lookout for the fixtures this week, and maybe we'll start to plot one.
Definitely. And we'll try and get out there what the games we're going to. So if anyone wants to come and meet us, we'll definitely do that. I'm up for that, mate.
Yeah, sorted. Deal.
I'll submit the forms to the wife, and I'll demand she gives me permission to go.
Get it on that calendar on the fridge door. It's locked in then.
Well, Mark, it's always been a pleasure, mate. Enjoyed it today. Man. Thanks for doing this 24 hours later for me.
No worries, pal. Enjoyed it as always.
Good man. And like we said, anyone watching, make sure you do all the good stuff that we've talked about. Comment down below and keep sharing, and we'll keep making this for you. But until next week, have a good time.